Hi, y'all. You know what time it is. It's story time with Chris. I know I'm usually more animated. Ah! A failed attempt, to say the least. But I hope everyone is having a great day. Um, I'm having an okay day, if I'm gonna be honest. Kids, I want to have a little moment with you all. For those who know and don't know, I was clinically diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety um, several years ago and was on medication and went off of it, then went back on medication, then went off of it, and then went back on medication. And I'm a huge supporter of those who use medicine to help deal with mental health struggle because the struggle is real. There is nothing wrong with seeking medical attention. There is nothing wrong with seeking a second opinion. And there's nothing wrong with taking medicine for your mental discrepancies, whether it's bipolarism, bipolar depression, schizophrenia, severe depression and anxiety, postpartum, whatever the case may be, your situation and your journey is valid. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you, sweetie. Um, I'm gonna try not to cry because it's been a day. What I would say is this: is that anytime I do post on my story or on Instagram, where I'm usually very ethereal and bubble like and bubbly, excuse me, that is very genuine. And for me, there is something healing about putting a smile on somebody else's face, even when you. I mean, Robin Williams said it best. Some of the greatest people in the world are the saddest people. And I can't help admit that I have really, really good days and really, really bad days. And I have good days and I have bad days. Today is just a bad day for me emotionally and mentally. A lot of things that I was trying to pan out for this week have gotten put on the back burner and have not panned out in the way that I would like. And I'm struggling, but I'm able to. Um, Thank you, sweetie. Um, I'm doing my best with what I have, and I'm taking everything in stride. And I think the best natural medicine, I guess, for me specifically, because I can only speak for myself, I cannot speak to the situations of other people. But for those who agree, you would know what I'm talking about. I love going to my job. I love being around the people I work with because they give me so much joy when I have none. They give me so much light when mine is dimmed because I'm not having a good day. And that is not a facade. Like, I genuinely love being around my friends and people. It just gets hard sometimes. And those bad days do come. And I do what I do best. Shout out to my best friend Kyle. He got me this years ago. So I use my meditation coloring book. Or, for those who know, you know, my journals. There's 3 of them. My letters, which I owe a lot of people letters. I just have not had the ability to get to the post office to buy more stamps. That's all I want to say. Kids, it's okay to have really bad days. It's okay to have really good days. And it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have good days. It's okay. There are some situations that may not pan out in the way that you want, but that does not mean that it's going to be like that forever. Just meditate, pray, breathe, drink your tea, do something you love to do, color, draw, play video games, hang out with your friends, love on yourself better than you normally would. I'm trying not to cry. But just take every day at a time. It's gonna be okay. And that's all I wanted to say. But on to lighter things. I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just need a minute. I'm good, y'all. Just going through the motions. It just happens. Like I said, I have my good days and I have my bad days. And I would rather be honest and transparent with you all than to not talk about it and repress it, because obviously, those who know, that's not healthy. You know, one thing that does give me joy is reading to those who listen and those who have their kids watch and all my friends that watch. I would not be here without you all, so thank you. Let me clean my glasses first, because I can't see without them. I'm due for new glasses, which I need to do that this year. Okay. Chapter 2. Is the house haunted? Four o'clock came and went. 5 o'clock came and went. The room Tetsuo had chosen for his study was the Western-style addition built onto the house. Now the floor was piled with bundles of books in Japanese and English, long unopened boxes with Tetsuo's collection of artifacts, and a scratched and scuffed old trunk. The other rooms had been tidied up. The attic room over the study, reached by a narrow flight of stairs, was empty, but the rest of the house had been made livable. There was the front entryway, the toilet off the hall, the earthen-floored kitchen, and the living room where they would take their meals. 2 more tatami rooms looked out over the garden. "Daddy, let's give Mommy the room with the alcove," said Satsuki. But when the sun was low in the sky and he was satisfied that he'd helped out as much as he could, Uncle Fujiyama had turned the three-wheeler for home. "Goodbye! Take care!" Satsuki was sorry Uncle Fujiyama wouldn't be staying the night. Then Granny left, carrying an empty wicker basket on her back. "Be sure to visit us now," she said to Satsuki and Mei. "See you soon. Thanks for helping us out." Tetsuo, Mei, and Satsuki stood in the road next to the little bridge and waved goodbye as Granny's rounded back got slowly smaller and the dust came down quietly across the forest and fields. Wagging its tail and barking, a white dog came running toward Granny from the direction of her house. A gust of wind blew little spinners of dust along the road. Granny stopped where the road curved out of sight, turned and waved one last time. Satsuki could see her scolding the dog as it jumped up to lick her face. Satsuki waved back. "Goodbye! Come see us again!" Mei stood quietly with her hands behind her back. For someone as shy with strangers as she was, waving goodbye to someone she just met today was impossible. Tetsuo looked down at the girls. "Well, shall we get back?" "Are we spending the night here?" Mei looked doubtful. "That's right." "Forever?" "Sure. We moved today, didn't we? We're not just spending the night. This is our home now." "Oh." The stream gurgled cheerfully at their feet. Nothing stirred along the road to the village and the fields. Satsuki heard a distant rumble in the sky. "All right, back we go," said Tetsuo. The three of them crossed the stone footbridge and climbed the path to the yard. Satsuki leading the way, Tetsuo with Mei by their hand. "Watch out there." May's foot caught on a tree root snaking across the path in the half-light. Tetsuo lifted her up over it. "We'd better remember this is here." "Yes. Someone could trip on that," Satsuki said. She scampered back and forth as they walked up the path. "You don't look like you trip over anything," said Tetsuo. "Don't worry about me," Satsuki said, laughing. "I can see even when it's pitch dark." They walked on a little way in silence. Then Satsuki said, "It really is getting dark." The overgrown garden trees and bushes and hummocks of grass were nothing but black shapes against the last traces of light in the sky. A pale crescent moon floated above the forest. The giant laurel tree rose above the trees, stretching its black branches wide against the sky like a solemn sentinel. What was it waiting for? "I'm hungry," May said. Little May looked suddenly miserable. She was worn out from the long day of moving and hadn't had a rest since early morning. "When we get back, I'll lay the futon out for you," Satsuki said. "Why don't you take a nap?" "I don't want a nap." She had barely eaten any of the afternoon snacks Kanta had brought over to the house from his mother. May had just shaken her head at the mountains of pickled radish, rice cakes, and other home-cooked food. All she'd eaten was a grilled rice ball with a little miso spread on it, and then only because Satsuki had insisted. May was always shy and wary when strangers were around. Now Satsuki felt an urge to tease May a little. "Daddy, how many rice cakes did we eat?" "Stop talking about rice cakes," May said, and broke into tears. She was ready for bed. "Don't worry," said Tetsuo. "We'll get dinner going right away." Satsuki suddenly remembered the soot sprites. What if they were still in the house? She crept up to the front door, took hold of the knob, and jerked it open. The house was empty. Inside, nothing moved. Everything was silent and dim. Uncle Fujiyama's broad shoulders and Granny's voice dispensing advice and instructions were gone. There was nothing but the three of them in the haunted house of Matsugo. "I'll heat the bath, Daddy. The tub's full already," Satsuki said cheerfully. She slipped off her sneakers and took them along as she stepped into the house. "There's firewood in the kitchen," said Tetsuo. "Maybe we should have collected more while it was still light." "Don't worry, there's more in the corner of the garden. We made a pile after lunch." "We? Oh, you mean you and Kanta?" "Yep." "Are you two friends now?" "Nope," Satsuki said. Kanta had wanted to go home after delivering the snacks, but Granny had instructed him to help Satsuki stock the woodpile. Satsuki couldn't get much out of him other than, uh-huh, here, and there. As soon as he'd completed his task, he turned suddenly and said, "Your house gives me the creeps. It's haunted, can't you tell?" And he ran away. Tetsuo chuckled. Didn't go so well, I gather. "He's really weird. Those short pants are way too big for him. It's not even summer yet and he's already brown." Satsuki frowned. "I mean, we haven't even had a fight and he doesn't like me. I think he's a big bully." Satsuki marched straight-legged down the corridor toward the kitchen, banging her feet on the floor. "He'll just have to learn some manners from Satsuki Kusakabe." Tetsuo, laughing, followed behind her. "Better watch out. The kids around here are used to lots of hard farm work. I bet he's no pushover even for you." "Don't you worry about me." Satsuki smiled. She dropped her shoes onto the floor of the kitchen and slipped them on again. "Don't worry, Daddy. Make way for Satsuki Kusakabe, superstar." The firebox for the bathtub faced into the kitchen, in a square recess in the floor. Satsuki looked down at it and declared, "Time to get that fire going. First we need some firewood." She opened the back door. The darkness had deepened. A whistling seemed to come down from the sky. The grass in the yard streamed into the wind. "Let's see, I think it was over there." She stepped out into the yard. The dense stand of trees that marked the edge of the forest ran along one side of the garden. Kanta and Satsuki had built a little pile of firewood close to the trees, just as Granny had instructed. Satsuki crept past the well. She stepped on a little path of evening primrose, its purple flowers blooming meekly in the dark. "Sorry," she said nervously, and hurried on. The wind seemed to be getting stronger, moaning quietly through the trees. Satsuki broke into a run for the woodpile. The sky was filled with swiftly drifting clouds that were even blacker than the night. The moon, which had been weakly gleaming in the sky above, was blotted out. A gust of wind snapped a branch off a tree. It hurtled past her. "Oh!" Now the wind was blowing hard. "Hurry up, Satsuki." The bushes hissed in the darkness. Everything she could see was moving to and fro. Another gust struck the thickets beyond the garden, startling the birds from sleep. Their frightened chirping rose above the sound of the wind. "I don't like this," Satsuki said to the garden. The wind whipped the grass and the stems of plants against her legs. The wind seemed to be cutting a path high through the ashen sky. Something howled along that path, like a solid fist of wind glinting with sinister light. It groaned as it passed overhead. Satsuki reached the pile and hastily gathered up an armful of wood. As she turned to go, the fist of wind swooped down and circled her in a whirlwind that tugged fiercely at her firewood and made the grass and twigs dance at her feet. Then, with a peal of a savage, ghostly laughter that rippled toward the four corners of the yard, the wind shot into the sky toward the crescent moon. It tore the firewood from her arms and sent it flying in a spiraling cloud of twigs and leaves toward the crown of the huge laurel. The laurel's branches shook violently in the wind, and the tree rasped and groaned as if its giant trunk were ready to split right down the middle. The frenzy in the sky was reaching a peak. Firewood. I can't go back without the firewood. Satsuki pulled herself together and ran back to the woodpile, still fighting the wind. She knelt and gathered up as much wood as she could carry. The branches jabbed her painfully, but this was no time to be choosy. She gritted her teeth and hugged the wood tightly. She could see the back door. Now run! The wind rose into the sky and swooped down at her again and again. At last she reached the back door, but before bolting through it, she turned trembling toward the laurel. Its enormous bulk loomed over the forest, writhing in the wind, a deeper black against the dark sky. How many years had it taken to grow so tall? Maybe it's always been here, thought Satsuki. It must know everything about this village. And even if there are monsters in the bushes and something awful flying around in the sky, there isn't anything that could scare that tree. She put the firewood by the back door, stood up straight and faced the tree. She had decided it was time to say something to this giant sentinel that stood watch over their house. "I need you to do something for us," she said in a solemn voice. "I'm sure you'll be here when we're gone, but until then, we need your protection. Please don't forget us." The tree must have understood. How could it not have heard what she said? Satsuki decided the laurel was nodding its branches back at her. She made up her mind that things would be all right. She opened the door and went into the kitchen. Tetsuo was at the wood fire hearth, busily preparing dinner. "Did you get some more wood? The wind sure is loud." "Yeah, I wasn't ready for it. It's blowing really hard." After the yard, the kitchen felt snug and safe. Satsuki carried the wood over to the firebox. "Where's May?" "Out like a light." "Good. Did you tuck her in?" "Mm-hmm. She burrowed right into the futon. I guess she was really worn out." "Is she in Mommy's room?" That was what Satsuki had decided to call the 8-mat room with the alcove. "Mm-hmm." "Well, it's good she's asleep." "Yep, that gives us more time to get ready. When May starts crying, everything comes to a stop." "I know." "Time to get ready." Satsuki looked at her thumb, which was bleeding from the sharp edge of a piece of wood. "I better light the fire, I guess." "That's a good idea. I wonder if May will want to take a bath tonight." "She has to. She's all dusty." "You're right. It's a pain to light the fire, though." "I'll take care of it." "Thank you kindly." "You just be the cook tonight, Daddy," Satsuki said. "I'll take care of the bath. All I have to do is follow Granny's instructions." Satsuki gathered up all the old newspaper they used to pack the dishes. She found a box of matches and put the wood within easy reach. "Daddy, there should be enough newspaper to get a fire going, right?" Tetsuo looked at the pile of newspaper. He was an experienced hiker and often built campfires in the mountains. "You might need more than that." "Really? Okay, I'll get some more." Satsuki was completely new at this. She turned to the firebox. This was going to be fun. She squatted down like a seasoned firelighter in the little pit facing the firebox. She was nervous, but that was fun too. She picked up each of the tools propped up against the side of the pit and looked at them. The poker, the tongs, and the little tin dustpan for cleaning out the ash, which I hope to have a fireplace someday in life. She lit one piece of newspaper, It quickly burst into flame. Startled, she stuffed it through the firebox door as fast as she could. That was hot. Okay, Daddy, I'm lighting the fire, Satsuki said, wadding up big balls of newspaper. You look very determined, Tetsuo said, chuckling. He was opening a can of dried sardines. That's right. Granny said everything depends on how you set things up. First the newspaper, then put in some dry twigs and firewood on top. Stack so it would burn well. Set it up the right way from the beginning and you'll be fine. That's what Granny had told her. But the twigs refused to burn. Daddy? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Getting the sardines ready. For miso soup? You're absolutely right. The twigs and firewood wouldn't seem to burn. They just smoldered and smoked, and the smoke wasn't going up the chimney. It was coming into the kitchen. Satsuki? What? Are you sad about something? Satsuki coughed, laughed, and coughed again. I'm fine. Her eyes were watering from the smoke. Now even the newspaper was going out. It was almost as if the fire was playing hide and seek. Every now and then there would be a sharp hiss. A lovely tongue of flame would dart up, and for a moment she could see the inside of the old firebox. The floor of the firebox was a grate of rusty iron bars. Daddy, there's a grate for the ash to fall through. The walls of the firebox were concrete and full of cracks. Hey, I see a bug. Now it's gone. The fire leapt up, then smoldered and smoldered again. Hi, Susie. Thank y'all for watching. Satsuki closed the firebox, waiting a little, then opened it again. The burning wood had a wonderful fragrance. Doesn't it smell nice, Daddy? Satsuki was entranced. She tried twisting the newspaper more tightly. She moved the firewood around. She was learning. By now the fire she had been burning warmly and throwing off a nice red glow. But lighting the fire for a bath is tricky. As Satsuki watched the flames struggling, she realized how hard it was going to be. Tetsuo was watching and smiling. Now and then he poked fun at her gently, but he didn't offer to help. Satsuki? Yes, Dad? How's it going? It's fun. Glad to hear it's fun. Is the water in the bathtub any warmer than before? You're mean. It wasn't going well at all, but Satsuki was determined. She didn't have a proper fire. Her cheeks were hot from peering into the firebox, and the smoke kept going up her nose. The fire threatened to go out completely, but she watched carefully. She was going to get this right. Well, let's see, said Tetsuo. What did Granny say? First you hear the metal bathtub rumbling and flexing. Then, when the fizzing sound starts and keeps going, close the damper halfway. But don't take the lid off the bath for anything. Wait a minute. Does the fizzing come before the rumbling? Now I can't remember. Tetsuo put the knife down, lost in thought. I guess we're living here now, he said to himself. Yasuko would surely be happy to reunite with her family, but would living here really help her recover? Wouldn't it be better for her to be back in Tokyo until she came home? Could the three of them manage on their own? All right, are we going to eat this, or should I just toss it out? Tetsuo said. That won't work, said a voice behind him. Satsuki looked up to see Kato Ogaki coming through the back door. He came and stood behind her. That won't work, he said again. He turned to Tetsuo and gave him a dozen eggs tied up in paper. This is for my grandma. Well, thanks a lot, said Tetsuo. Do they always keep you this busy? Kato shrugged and looked at the firebox. Got a hatchet? What's a hatchet? Satsuki said. You mean like an axe? Without answering, Kato kept his usual frown in place and looked around the kitchen until he spotted the hatchet under the sink. He took a piece of firewood, stood it up on end, and split it clean down the center. He did this until he had a pile of kindling. Nice technique, said Tetsuo. I do this every day. Your family must depend on you. Kanta kept the frown, but his face turned red. He picked up the kindling and held it out to Satsuki. I'll show you. He squatted in front of the firebox next to Satsuki. Matches? He said rather self-importantly. Here you go. Satsuki handed him the box of matches. Kanta studied the box. Hey, there's a picture of a peach. They're from the fruit parlor. They give them away. Kanta looked puzzled. He'd never heard of a fruit parlor. Anyway, who cared what it was? Didn't have anything to do with lighting a fire properly. Trying to be helpful, Satsuki wadded up some sheets of newspaper. You're wasting it, said Kata. 1 or 2 is enough.
Really? I must have used 30 or 40, but it won't light.
You're new at this, Kata smiled shyly. Just trying to make Satsuki feel better. Satsuki had no idea why this bad-tempered boy had turned suddenly friendly, but as she watched him skillfully rearranging the kindling, she forgot her puzzlement. The flames leapt up.
Hey, you got it going!
Satsuki clapped her hands in delight. That should do it. Kata made sure the fire was moving from the kindling to the logs. Then he shut the firebox with a clang. Listen now. Don't open the door again for a while or the fire will go out.
Okay. Oh, it's so pretty.
The fire glowed through the little window in the firebox.
Listen to it pop.
That's the cedar.
How do you know it's cedar?
Because of the smell. Satsuki was impressed, but next time she was going to do it for herself, no matter what. She had learned a lot. She was sure she could do it next time. Dinner's on, said Tetsuo. Better go wake up May. Why don't you stay for dinner with us, Kanta? No thanks. Kanta shook his head. Now that the fire was going, he was back to his standoffish self. See you, he mumbled and ran out the back door. So this is Kanta helping Satsuki set up the fire for the bathtub. Which, thank God for hot water tanks, but I actually feel like this is a very industrious way of doing, like setting up a bath, because you're not wasting water. And in Japan, their bathing techniques are a lot different. So what you do, as a fun fact, children, and those watching, in Japan, and in other countries as well, there is a practice where you will scrub yourself with soap and water at a station. Usually it's before you get into the bath. You scrub yourself really well to get the dirt off of you from the day. You rinse yourself off, or you use a tub to throw your water on yourself to get all the soap suds off. And then you go into the bath. It actually cuts away a lot of dirt and is a better hygienic system. But for those who have that ability, that's great. For those who don't, obviously, I wish you did. Which, when I get my first house, I would love to have something like that set up. The night was pitch black now. The wind kept blowing as it boomed against the house. The old building answered with creaks and rattles and groans of its own. Even things inside the house were murmuring to the wind. The cupboard doors rattled softly.
The wind is really loud.
Thanks, man. May sat in the steaming water, looking red as a boiled octopus.
Daddy, is the house going to fall down? It's so old.
Tetsuo relaxed in the steaming water. Well, I hope not. We just moved in, he smiled. Their long day was finally ending. They had moved all the way from Tokyo. Everyone had eaten. Now they were having a nice hot bath. All that was left was go to bed. And tomorrow was Sunday. They could sleep in. A big gust thudded against the house. Everything shook. Something rattled and banged over their heads.
This is getting scary,
said Satsuki, soaping herself next to the bath.
What was that noise, Daddy?
May said. Just the wind.
But something was banging.
Satsuki was so nervous, she jumped into the bath, still covered with suds. Kata had said the house was haunted. He said it gave him the creeps. It must be the kitchen, said Tetsuo. The roof's tin.
Why would the roof make noise?
Because the roof wind is trying to blow it off.
What should we do?
Satsuki looking worried. Nothing. Stop fretting.
I heard something go bang in the yard. What is it, Daddy?
Asked May. Probably the buckets next to the well.
I'll go get them after we're finished, Satsuki said. If they blow away, we can't carry water.
Good thinking, said Tetsuo lazily. If we don't bring them back, the goblins of Tsukamori Woods might make off with them. Then we'd have a real problem. Satsuki looked at the ceiling nervously.
Daddy, was that a goblin? There it is again!
Relax. It's just an owl. The forest is probably full of them. We'll just have to get used to it.
Now, how are we going to get from here to our beds in Mommy's room down that dark hall?
Satsuki thought.
Daddy, let's all get out of the bath together. We should all go to sleep together. You don't have to work anymore. today, do you?
Tetsuo laughed. What are we going to tell your mother tomorrow? She'll think we're a bunch of scaredy cats. And that is where we will end for tonight. As I said, y'all, I love Storytime with Chris. In March of this year, it will be 2 years of Storytime with Chris. I'm very happy to be here with you all. I thank you all for your support. Like I said, kids, it's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have good days and bad days. It's okay to have really good days. And it's okay to have really bad days. And I thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for your support. Like, I really mean that, y'all. I'm not doing this for posterity or trying to, put on a facade. I really appreciate y'all. So, peace, love, and hair grease, y'all. I'll see you soon.